Mack Hollins returns in the wide receiver depth chart immediately, gets a shakeup. That's where we start on this episode of Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Patriots fans? I'm your host, Nick Cattles, born and raised in New England, host of the Everything Pats podcast, co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles, and a sports talk show host veteran. On today's episode, Josh McDaniels is leaning into the strengths of his weapons, and it's only going to strengthen my offensive expectations. Also, Stefon Diggs' impact is clear, and it's fantastic. But first, the wide receiver room welcomes in an off-season edition. We appreciate you joining the show, making us your first listen, and for being an everydayer. The Locked On Patriots podcast is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Mack Hollins, officially off the PUP list, and the ramifications were immediately felt on the practice field earlier today. Mike Kadlick of CLNS posts, Hollins, who's being activated off PUP, is immediately the first X up in a Patriots offensive team walkthrough. So today's starters, with Hollins back in the mix off the PUP, you had Stefon Diggs at the Z position. Now, the Z wide receiver, if you're wondering what that means, it is your most versatile receiver on the team. It is somebody who is going to move all over the place. Somebody who can line up inside, somebody who can line up outside, going to go in motion a decent amount. So Stefon Diggs was your Z receiver. That's not much of a surprise. He has shown his versatility throughout his career. Buffalo, he could beat you from the outside, from the inside. Houston last year, he was mostly in the slot, but you can play him all over the place, which is one reason why McDaniels must absolutely love Stefon Diggs on this football team, because we know McDaniels enjoys moving his receivers around the line of scrimmage. So Stefon Diggs was your Z. Pop Douglas, this is not a surprise, was your slot wide receiver. He was your starting slot. And we've discussed what Pop Douglas does, how he fits in with McDaniels' offense. I think it's a perfect fit. Short area quickness. He can get separation at the line of scrimmage, the jitterbug in his game. It is a great fit for McDaniels. So Pop Douglas was in the slot. And then you had Mack Hollins lined up as your X receiver, outside boundary guy. So I don't know if this is what we're going to see week one, first snap of the game. I have no idea. We still have plenty of time, more than a month before we get there. But Hollins returns to practice, and right away, those are your three receivers on the field: Diggs, Douglas, and Hollins. It was Diggs, Douglas, and Booty, but Booty slides out, Hollins slides in. One of the questions that I had, one of the questions that many people had, as we watched Kayshon Boutte, who we discussed on yesterday's episode, the idea of Boutte solidifying his roster spot, I still believe that. Right now, he is nearly a lock, if not a lock, the way that this camp has been run so far. That can change moving forward, as we've stated, but Boutte, to me, is on this team right now. But one of the questions we had was whether or not Boutte was starting out there as the X receiver because the Patriots felt like he was their best X receiver, or was he out there playing the X, holding a spot, so to speak, for Hollins? At least for this walkthrough today, our question is answered. He was holding the spot for Hollins. If this holds firm, that's what Boutte was doing. And so the impact on the other receivers is clear. With Hollins back, you've got Boutte. He slides down at least a peg, if not two. And not only does Boutte slide down, but Kyle Williams slides down. Williams was sharing a lot of the outside duties with Kayshon. And now with Kayshon pretty much taking Williams' spot, with Hollins taking his spot, Williams slides down. Now, it's not to say these guys aren't going to touch the field. I think you will see a pretty decent rotation of receivers, especially through the first month and a half of this season, as McDaniels truly figures out what he has and how to utilize the guys the best possible way. So right now is right now. No idea what the middle of September, late September looks like. I still think Kyle Williams will get on the football field. You don't draft a receiver in the top 100 and not play him. He will be out there. He has shown flashes so far in camp, but there's no doubt Hollins coming back hurts Williams and it hurts Booty. Those guys will see less reps, at least for now. So Booty, Williams, they slide down. It's also less opportunity for other receivers that are trying to make this team. If you're Jalen Polk with Hollins back, you have less opportunity. That's why Polk missing the first, week of training camp, the first 3 or 4 days of training camp, I think hurt him. Now, it's not insurmountable. Plenty of time for Polk to make plays and show himself worthy of a roster spot. But now he's got another body out there that he has to battle. And if he was out there the first 3 or 4 days of camp, Hollins wasn't out there, that would have given him that opportunity to get more looks. Same could be said for Javon Baker. Now Baker is sliding back on the depth chart. So everybody slides back, which makes it more difficult for Booty and Williams to get on the field, and it makes it more difficult for Polk and Baker to make the team. So this is a significant impact. This also could impact Pop Douglas. We've had the conversation before that Pop, at least at times, has been spread out wide. He's been put on the boundary by McDaniels. Now, is that something McDaniels wants to utilize during the season? Is that something that McDaniels believes the Patriots can do to take advantage of certain defenses and certain defensive backs? The element of surprise to throw Douglas out there on the outside on that boundary. Douglas, by all accounts, has acquitted himself very well being out there at the boundary. But, what was that just, hey, we've got a few snaps because Polk wasn't quite ready and Baker's not necessarily turning heads. Now, recently, Baker's made a couple of plays, but early camp, he wasn't doing much of anything. Hollins is injured, so let's throw Pop out there, give it a different look, see what he can do with that opportunity. But will Pop now be almost exclusively, if not exclusively, a slot receiver for this team? We'll see. We'll see how McDaniels uses him. So what does Mack Hollins bring? Why is Mack Hollins lining up immediately when he returns from PUP? Why is he lining up with Diggs and Douglas as the starting receivers for this offense? Well, we begin with his size. That's where he truly separates himself from every other receiver on this roster. Mack Hollins is all of 6'4" tall. He's about 220 pounds. He's a big dude. He is a big receiver, a big target for Mack. Whoa. Mack's a big target for May. Let's not go back to those Mac Jones days. Mack Hollins is a big target for Drake. And Drake needs that, to have a big outside receiver, that kind of size, to line up along with Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. It does give your offense a little bit of an advantage. The bigger guys you could put out there makes it difficult on the DBs. So the size, 6'4", 220. Hollins also has experience in the McDaniels offense, playing in Vegas. So that helps him. He's got a level of comfort. He's familiar. He knows exactly what's going to be asked of him. And for Drake to have receivers out there that are comfortable with the system, as Drake is getting more and more comfortable with the system, that only helps the quarterback. It only helps the offense. So you have that experience with McDaniels and Hollins. The last bit I would put in here, and I think it gets overlooked a lot because it's not the sexy thing to talk about, and, Hollins is a receiver, but Mack Hollins is an excellent run blocker. He is an excellent run blocker. Some people believe he is one of the best run blocking receivers in football. And we know that McDaniels loves to run the football. We know the Patriots are going to run. Mike Vrabel loves to run the ball as well. And so if you want to get big and physical, you have Hollins out there to help you block on the edge. So that gives him the leg up on a Kayshon Boutte or a Kyle Williams. His size, his blocking ability, and his experience with this particular offense. We'll see how it continues to unfold because this could be very fluid. You got 11, 12 wide receivers in camp. So there's a lot going on, a lot of bodies moving. Hollins, though, he returns. And for day one, it has an immediate impact on the depth chart and creates a wide receiver shakeup in the top three. Speaking of Josh McDaniels is righting one huge wrong already of the 2024 season. We'll tell you how next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one single place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. How has everything been for you with all these different apps, handling your money, dealing with certain decisions in life? It's a mess. Monarch Money, we're talking about one app making it easier to manage your money day to day. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. The best coaches accentuate strengths and hide the weaknesses. That is ultimately their job, to get the best out of every single player. You hide the weaknesses, you accentuate the strengths. In looking at what the Patriots had done in the offseason, it was obvious that they were at least trying. They were trying to surround Drake Maye with better talent, and they were trying to find pieces that would go along with Maye that would almost mold the offense around the quarterback. And that's precisely what Josh McDaniels is doing. Josh McDaniels is making this offense all about his quarterback. And the reason why we know that is because what happened at practice this week. You know, Doug Kyed caught up with Joshua Dobbs, backup quarterback. And here's what Dobbs had to say about McDaniels. Quote, Josh has explained he wants to use our skill set and athleticism at the QB position as another way to keep the defense on their heels. And so obviously, situationally, when we need it, we'll be able to pull it out and make plays with our legs. Kyed writes, Tuesday's practice featured Maye completing a pass to Stefon Diggs on a bootleg. 2 plays later, Maye kept the ball on a read option. Let me just sit back for a minute and absorb this and enjoy this. When you draft a player, especially when you draft that player 3rd overall, you have to utilize everything that that player brings to the table. When you draft Drake Maye, you have to use all of Maye's weapons, all of his physical traits, everything that makes him different, everything that made you pick him 3rd overall in the NFL draft. You can't sit around and say to yourself, well, he's a good athlete. He can make some plays with his legs. Big guy, good frame. But you know what? We're not going to run him. Why would we call designed runs? Why would we take advantage of his legs, athleticism, and size? Why would we ever do that as an offense? The way this offense was run in 2024 and how they did not utilize Maye and his legs is one of the most mystifying things of last season. I wasn't doing Locked On Patriots at that point. I was doing the Everything Pats pod and working with Greg, but I can tell you, you can go back to those archives of those podcasts and you will see me all the time looking into the camera, talking about you got to run Drake Maye. You got to run Maye more. You got to have designed runs. What are you doing? For the first couple of months of Maye being out there, they didn't even bother. Doug Kyed provides some stats for us. Patriots coaches last season were hesitant to use Maye on too many designed runs. There were 54, if you're wondering, 54 total rushing attempts by Maye, but only 9 of those were designed runs. 45 of the 54 rushing attempts by Maye were scrambles. How in the world can you have a quarterback like Maye and call 9 designed runs? That's ridiculous. He played 13 games. In reality, it was closer to like 10 or 11. We'll get into that a little bit later. But let's say he played 10 games. Let's just say he played 10 games. It makes the math easier. 9 designed runs in 10 games. Not even one designed run called per game when you have Maye out there. It's ridiculous. It's malpractice. It's negligent. Whatever you want to say. Maye is 6'5", 230 pounds. What are we doing? And don't you think that hurt the Patriots' third down offense, which, by the way, was 29th in the NFL last year? You had a bottom 5 third down offense. You had a quarterback who could run, and you decided just not to have him run. Defies any kind of logic. But Drake Maye is not the only player on this offense that McDaniels is going to lean into the strengths for. Not the only one. Another guy is TreVeyon Henderson. Evan Lazar wrote about Henderson recently. McDaniels is trying to find ways to get the speedy second-rounder mismatches in space. Can you imagine? The former Buckeye is running routes from all over the formation, is being used in the screen game and on outside runs. This past Saturday, Henderson was separating on his downfield opportunities, capping off practice with a long completion from Dobbs. Maye and Henderson also nearly connected on a wheel route earlier that fell just incomplete. Lazar continues, one way Henderson could contribute is by hunting mismatches as a flexed out receiver, which was the case when Henderson got behind a linebacker on a stutter and go for the previously mentioned connection with Dobbs toward the end of Saturday's practice. So you're sending Henderson out wide as a receiver on the line of scrimmage. I'm sure you're going to have him slotted on the inside as well. You're throwing him screens out of the backfield. Sure, he'll be part of a pony offense. I've read that they had all 3 running backs out there at one point. I believe that was at mandatory minicamp. So trying to find spots where you could get a mismatch against a linebacker, maybe even a safety, depending on who the safety is, going one-on-one against Henderson, which is a nightmare for the vast majority of linebackers because of Henderson's speed. And this is just to keep the defense off balance. They don't know what to expect. One play, you'll have Mack Hollins on the outside. Next play, you'll have Diggs or Douglas or Williams or Booty. And all of a sudden, you'll have Henderson out there on the outside on the boundary. You're just constantly mixing and matching, and you're causing all sorts of headaches for the defensive coordinator. Keep them off balance. Not only keeping the defense off balance, but also creating these shots for chunk plays. You know, how do you get your scoring up? How do you get your offense to improve? You get some of those chunk plays thrown in. Henderson could be a chunk play machine if you have the right mismatches. So create those opportunities. Make the defense hesitant. If the defense is constantly thinking about what they have to do, what they should do, how they messed up earlier in the game, how do we handle this guy? How do we handle that guy? If you make the defense hesitant, if you make them cautious, you know what else that does? It helps the offensive line. Because defenses are going to be hesitant to pin their ears back and go after your offensive line and try to get to the quarterback. If they're getting sliced and diced and they're getting spread out because you're moving guys all over the place, you got your running backs on the line of scrimmage, you got your wide receivers on the line of scrimmage, and you're really messing their heads up and playing games, it's going to make them hesitate. What do they do? How do they do it? Why do they do it? And that's the point of being an offensive coordinator. We didn't see much of that at all from Alex Van Pelt last year. If this offense is healthy, I think we're going to see a big boost in production. They scored 17 points a game last year. I think that put them at like 30th in the league. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about a Patriots offense that is hovering between 12th and 16th, somewhere near or right there in the middle of the pack, which would be a significant boost, a significant improvement from last year's numbers. You've got McDaniels now. He's going to help you. You got more versatility. You've got these pieces like Diggs and Henderson that you can now put into this offense. Bring out the versatility of them. Kyle Williams can even line up inside from time to time to go along with outside. You've got more explosivity, and you've got a schedule that I think you could take advantage of. So my expectations for this offense, which has honestly gotten off to a pretty good start this camp, especially compared to the last couple of seasons. My expectations, reasonable expectations, right now, I feel like this could be a middle-of-the-pack offense. I don't think that would be crazy to say. I don't think I'm losing my mind with that take. A big offseason addition is already showcasing his impact. It is real, and it is fantastic. That's coming up next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I've got friends that play golf, got 2 of them that play golf all the time, and they tell me it's about good times with good people. It's also about good flavors. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the Bev card. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONNFL to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Stefon Diggs is exceeding all expectations early, and I'm not just talking about from a physical standpoint. Yes, we're all pretty surprised that Diggs was ready for day one of training camp. He hasn't taken a day off. He's been participating in pretty much all the drills. Looks like Stefon Diggs out there, but he is also exceeding all expectations in many ways, many detailed ways. Let's start with Stefon Diggs' impact on the red zone. Mike Reese wrote this earlier in the week on a Diggs Maye red zone connection, not once but twice. One notable theme from the red zone work, Maye and Diggs showcased obvious chemistry by connecting on 2 touchdowns. Diggs in particular seems to have a knack for working in tight spaces. This cannot be overstated. Diggs, his possible impact on the red zone offense, what we have seen in camp, there has been an impact on the red zone offense with Diggs out there. The Patriots had the 30th ranked offense in the red zone last year. Putrid. Embarrassing, frankly. 30th in the red zone. So any help in the red zone is big for this offense. But if Diggs and Maye continue to show that kind of chemistry and Diggs becomes a really good option in the red area, now you're talking about that red zone offense getting the boost that it needs. Did you know that last year, I looked this up, last year, guess how many touchdowns the wide receiver core had? Total. Talking about every single receiver that touched the field last year for the Patriots. How many total touchdowns combined do you think they had? I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. 10. The entire wide receiver core had 10 touchdowns last season. As a matter of fact, Jalen Polk had the second most touchdowns for a Patriot wide receiver last year. Jalen Polk. How about Drake Maye? What did he do? When you look at the quarterback red zone passing touchdowns from last year, Lamar Jackson was number 1. Lamar Jackson had 32 touchdown passes in the red zone. Drake Maye had 9. That put him at 25th. Now, we mentioned this a little bit earlier. If you look at pro football statistics and all that stuff, the Pro Football Reference, they say he played 13 games. That Maye played 13 games. In reality, not so much. I mean, he was in 13 games, but he didn't play a full 13 games. He went into that Jets primetime game in garbage time. I don't really count that. The game that I went to last year at Gillette against the Jets, he got hurt with a concussion. He only played 1 quarter of that game. And then you go to the last game of the season against Buffalo, and he played 1 series, which meant nothing. So in reality, he played about 10 games last year. So 9 red zone touchdown passes in 10 games, let's call it. Lamar Jackson had 32. I mean, it's a different universe. There is huge room for growth for this red zone offense. Huge room for growth for Drake Maye inside the red zone. So one thing that Diggs is going to impact is the red zone offense. Secondly, when we look at Diggs' impact on this team that is already being felt, he draws attention. And earlier in this episode, I talked about Mack Hollins impacting the wide receivers and how every wide receiver dropped down a spot aside from Steph and Pop. Well, when you're Stefon Diggs and you join this team, everybody on the roster slides down a spot. So instead of asking Pop Douglas to be your best receiver, you're asking him to be your best slot receiver. Instead of asking, Kayshon Boutte to be a number 3 or Mack Hollins to be, a number 2, you're asking Hollins to be a 3. You're asking Boutte to be a number 4. You're asking Kyle Williams to be a 5 instead of having to start right away and throwing him into the deep end of the pool. So Diggs draws attention, and everybody else at the position slides down a spot because Diggs is going to be your 1. And when you have a 1, it makes it much easier on everybody else. As Karen Garigian intelligently pointed out in her Mass Live column, one of them this week, Diggs is also going to get the best cornerback. He's likely going to get the best opposing quarterback. So when that corner is up on Diggs, right? Corner 1 is going to be defending Diggs. Well, that means now corner 2 might have to defend Pop, or corner 2 might have to defend Mack Hollins. And what is the size of corner 2 versus corner 1? So the best cornerback is already occupied because of Diggs' presence, which makes it easier on everybody else. They can breathe that sigh of relief knowing that they don't have to match up against the best corner on that Sunday. So that helps. And Diggs is a big moment guy. He's a big moment guy. He's had plenty of big moments in his NFL career. He's not afraid of it. So when you need somebody to come through with a play, you now feel like you have that receiver on your team. Here's the final impact that is clear that Diggs has already made. Mentorship. Mentoring not only the wide receivers, but also mentoring the cornerbacks. And we found out that Diggs has watched film with Christian Gonzalez, for example. And they kind of bounce questions off of each other. And Diggs tells Gonzalez what he's thinking as a receiver and watches Gonzalez film and says, well, this is what you could have done. This is what I'm looking at as a receiver. So the mentorship is there. The work ethic. Even if he's not watching film with you, Steph Diggs is one of those players, even in his 30s, that takes every single solitary rep seriously. And that work ethic means an awful lot because other guys, just by example, are watching him work. And they say, that's what it takes to be successful for as long as he's been successful. So that work ethic. And finally, just the confidence that your quarterback gains when he has somebody like Diggs out there. And that type of confidence cannot be overlooked. Stefon Diggs already making an impact on this team. It's clear. And it is fantastic to see. That wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Reach out to me on Twitter at NickCRadio. And don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that like button as well and subscribe. Thank you for being an everydayer and making Locked On Patriots your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily MLB locks and can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great, spectacular weekend, and we will see you on Monday.